Well, hey there, Mama, and welcome back to the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast, episode number 223. I'm Emily McDermott, and I'm here beside you on this journey as we work together to declutter your home, head, and heart. If you have ever told yourself, I'm just not an organized person, I'll never have an organized home, if you've ever thought this or thought that your identity is just that of a disorganized person, this episode is definitely for you. I am speaking to Tracy Hoth. She is a certified life and organizing coach, and she's on a mission to help women simplify their homes and their lives. So she is the creator of the Organized Life Academy and the host of the top 1% globally ranked Organized Coach podcast. And she equips empty nesters to declutter with confidence, create systems that last, and step into the role of Organized Life CEO. And we are talking all about mindset and identity today, how you can start to see yourself as an organized person, her great tips on how to use an alter ego to really jumpstart your decluttering efforts. And it's just a great conversation about how you can show yourself evidence in your own life that you do have the capacity to have an organized and clutter-free home and life. So I am super excited to bring you this conversation with Tracy Hoth. Hey Mama, are you tired of your cluttered home and mile-long to-do lists but are too overwhelmed to know where to start? Do you lack the time and motivation and don't think you'll ever conquer the clutter? You're in the right place. I'm Emily, wife, boy mom, and declutter coach who has overcome the overwhelm in my own life through decluttering and simplifying. I believe every mom deserves the peace that comes from a clutter-free home. Ready to get your life back? Let's declutter your home, head, and heart together. Well, hey, Tracy, thank you so much for coming on the Moms Overcoming Overwhelm podcast. I am very happy to talk to you today.
Emily, I'm so glad I'm here. I know we've known each other for quite a while, but it's so fun. We're here talking about organization together and what all that means.
Yeah, so we kind of connected through the podcasting world and sort of knew we were in like a similar, field, similar group and everything. But I just love talking to like my friends that I've met for other reasons, and then we get to just jam out about things like this that we like
Yes.
geek out about. So, and I know some things about you, but I'm excited to learn some more like pieces about your story and your approach and everything. But I love it if you could introduce yourself and tell us about you and your family, kind of how you serve women, and maybe like one little thing you like to do for fun.
Ooh, okay. So I have been in business for 17 years and I've been helping women get organized in their lives and their homes and then in the last few years in their businesses. And so I still do both on the home side and the business side. So that's been very fun and challenging. And it's just such a gift to be able to help people in that way. And what was the other question? How I serve others or help others? I'm like, does she mean in business or personal? And
Either.
so I was thinking, like, what's something people wouldn't know? I go into the prison, and the men's prison is close to us. So I actually teach some classes about emotional intelligence. And so it kind of ties into coaching and what I learn about the brain and being able to help them in their jobs, like be able to get promoted and be aware of their own emotions. And so that's been so fun and challenging. I'm on my fourth year doing that, and that's been interesting. Like I never thought I would do that. Someone just spoke at our church and I said, my husband and I were going to do it together and then he couldn't do it. And so now I do that by myself. So that's kind of fun.
Wow.
And
I definitely did not know that about you. So that's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And then something I like to do for fun, I was thinking about this and I'm like, well, I love learning things. The most fun sounds like sitting on the couch with my laptop and just Googling stuff that I want to learn. But I thought, well, that sounds so boring and businessy. So the next most fun thing I like to do is hang out with friends. I have lots
Okay.
of friends. So going on trips or meeting together, going out to dinner, like that's my main fun thing I do.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. I love that. And I know your kiddos are a little bit older, which is fun
Yes.
too. And so usually I ask about a time when our guests were overwhelmed in motherhood. But for you, if there's something that comes to mind, maybe it was something about you were overwhelmed in your business. And, we are professional organizers, professional declutterers, but sometimes we struggle with being able to be on top of our own stuff, right? So I would love it if you could give an example, like what was going on at the time when you knew something needed to change and what you did.
Oh, 100%. I feel like I can experience this a lot. I feel like entrepreneurship is a roller coaster of being all in, being excited, it's working, to like crashing and burning, it's not working. And so this was me 2 weeks ago. I was like, I'm quitting. This is enough. I've been doing this 17 years. Like, what, blah, blah, blah. And then when that happens to me, this is my process, I guess, is that I just need a little escape. And so in the past, I've maybe binge watched a show or just relaxed or talked to friends about it. What happened this time is I'm in a mastermind and I had to go in person like the next week with that. And so I was able to just be super vulnerable, open up, share, let people see what's going on with me, which is challenging. But I go back to my own organizing steps, which spell the word space, sort, purge, assign homes, contain, and energize. And whenever I'm overwhelmed, I always go to just sort, get everything out of my head, sort it into categories, just back up, look at it, and then move forward from there. And so that's what I did, what I'm able to do. But it does take time. I'm trying to be really compassionate with myself as I go through that and just be like, it's okay, Tracy. There's no rush. You can relax. You can be here for a while and just feel that. For me, it kind of turns into anger or something like that angriness, and then go to sort and go to the organizing steps.
Yeah, I think the self-compassion is really important, and that's something that I've grown in, I think, over the
Yes.
several, past years where it's like, okay, I used to beat myself up, and then I notice a lot about how I'm speaking to myself and giving myself grace in those moments. And then, like you said, you're able to kind of take that breath and reset and then go, okay, what's the next step? And for me, again, similar to you with a very like systematic brain, I immediately go towards the, okay, let's get everything in the brain out. It's less scary when it's not all pinging around up there in my head, and
Yeah.
then being able to do that. And I love how your SPACE acronym works not only in your home, but also in your business and other life areas, because we deal so much with the mental clutter, obviously, in addition to the physical clutter. So I think that that's just a really great reset to be able to go back to
Yes.
that all the time.
Yeah, and I think about a story that I was standing in front of a garage back when I worked in person, and the garage was just filled to the brim. And I was standing there with this woman who was 10 years older than me. And I remember thinking, there is no way we're going to be able to do this. And that sticks in my mind so much because that thought made me feel overwhelmed. And in that moment, she was paying me. I had to do something. And so I said to myself, Tracy, the first step to organizing anything is to sort. And I was able to make my body then, because I felt focused, because that's all I had to think about, walk forward, grab something, and put it into a category. And she did what I did, and we were able to sort the whole garage, her and I, which still blows my mind. And I just think all I did in that moment was change my thought from there's no way we can do this to Tracy, the first step is to sort.
Well, I think one of the unique aspects of your specific skill set is that you not only have the professional organizing, decluttering background, but you have the certified life coach background, and that deals so much with your thoughts impacting you, your emotions and your actions. So I know you know how to declutter forwards and backwards and in your sleep, but I want to focus a little bit on the mindset aspect for our listeners, because I think you have some really great ways that we can, again, I like to say, take our thoughts and kind of hold them up to the light and be able to see, like, is this actually true? And be able to ask some questions. So, why is it essential that when we are approaching something, whether it be a messy garage or our closet or anything like this, that we really take into account mindset first before we're just sort of diving in without a plan, and also like our identity, how we see ourselves, because as moms that changes frequently, not only in our seasons of motherhood, but also in becoming a mom and what we used to do pre-kids and how we used to spend our time and use things in our home. So, what recommendations do you have as far as like how to start with that mindset and identity piece?
Yeah. Well, I like to ask the most simple question, like if you want to get organized, why aren't you right now? And then all of it comes up. Like you can see, maybe you got defensive when I asked that. Maybe you had an answer right away, like I don't have time, or I don't know how, or I don't know where to start, or I'm a mess, like that. I can't do that. I've tried 100 times before and I can't do it. So, whatever that it is that comes up, that's where we start. And we just look at what are those thoughts? What are those things that come up? The other part of it is if we have the identity that we are not an organized person, how can we even think that we're going to create an organized space if we don't believe that we are or that it's even possible for us to become organized? Like, and I always want to ask people, like my clients, what if what if you believed you have it within you, but the whole time you've been telling yourself, because of this belief. Maybe your parents told it to you. Maybe you learned it along the way. Maybe you never learned the steps, so you didn't know it was even possible. But what if you've just been telling yourself that you're a disorganized person and you really aren't? And this whole time it's possible, but understanding that thought, that identity that you believe about yourself is the key to changing. It's almost like you now have a destination you can put in your GPS because you're an organized person. So this is the direction you're going to go, and then it becomes possible for you.
Yeah, and I find that, of course, on the organization side, I can coach others in these different ways of looking at it. But I definitely have my own mindset blocks about other
Mm.
areas, like when it comes to math, and I was like, straight A student. Well, I got through. I think I got maybe like a C in calculus once. But like when I have my kids coming to me, not so much now, but as they get older, asking for help with math, my initial response or thought is, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at
Hmm.
math. Dad's good at math. Grandpa's really good at math. If you need help, you go to them. I can help you with your English, anything having to do with words. I'm your girl. But I've just been telling myself that over and
Yeah.
over. And like, what if it's not true? But I just haven't allowed myself to believe that, or certain things about my health, like, well, this is just how it is. I've entered this fun time of my life called perimenopause, and things are not fitting how they used to. So it's just accepting. It's sort of like that, well, this is just how it is. And I
Hmm.
can't make the change. And it's sort of this finality of your experience. So I definitely have that in other areas of my life. But it's funny because I can look at some of these things with organization and I can look at a client and work with them and be like, well, of course you're an organized person. Like, of course, do you organize your silverware drawer? Do you
Yeah.
separate the forks from the spoons? Well, then you have the capacity in you to be able to do organization. It may be a macro organization and not a micro, and that's okay. So I just find it interesting that I have blind spots of my own when it
Yes.
comes to these mindset things.
And there's so many different things that you just said that I'm like, yeah, and there's different ways to approach each of those. Like when you said you're not good at math, we don't have to go to the opposite of that and say, oh, I'm so good at math. And first of all, it also depends who you're comparing yourself to, because did I even take calculus? I can't even remember. Like, and you got to see, and maybe someone else didn't even take calculus. And so it depends on who we're comparing ourselves to. But also, what if we just thought instead of like, I'm amazing at math, we could just think, I'm really good at figuring out problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to do with math. It could be about organizing, but we're really good at figuring out problems. Or I'm really good at directing my kids to the answers. And maybe that's a
Mhm.
YouTube video. It has nothing to do with how good we are at math. So there's different approaches to pull thoughts that maybe work in other areas. That's one of the ways I like to go find them. Like you were saying about the silverware drawer, one of my clients was amazing at planning vacations. Like she was meticulous down to the detail. And when she saw that about herself, she realized, then why do I not organized? Like, why do I not have an organized home when at work and when planning vacations I can? And what she discovered was that she remembered as a child, her mom told her that she always had a messy room, like she couldn't keep it picked up. And because of that, she felt she wasn't worthy of having an organized home.
Mm.
And once she discovered that, and it was just by having a coach reflect what she was thinking and like walking through, it's kind of like untangling a bowl of spaghetti or just pulling out these thoughts. And she was able to say, like, then stop and question, do I want to still believe that I'm not worthy? And look how organized I am in other areas of my life. And it completely changed everything. And now she's able and feels worthy to have an organized home, and she's making steps in that direction. It's just so fun to see that all that was a thought that she had, that she'd carried
Yeah.
with her.
Yeah, and sometimes if we're able to separate it out, I always have to tell myself, like, I am not my thoughts, you know? So just
Yeah.
being able to separate that out and be able again to look at it sort of with a critical eye. And one of the things you just mentioned that reminds me of some things you mentioned on your podcast about like evidence, like the evidence that we're showing ourselves that we are our person, and to pay attention to the evidence as it may present in other areas of our life, but then also as we are kind of going forward on the journey, paying attention and celebrating the wins and that evidence. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with your clients to be able to notice and then also celebrate the evidence that they are, in fact, organized people?
Yeah, we just go into looking at different things, like what's something good. And you can go as far back, like graduating from high school, completing some project that you did. You could look at work in different areas, or being a mom. Like, what is something that comes really natural that's pretty easy for you when it comes to being a mom? So go through, ask people. That's a fun exercise. Like, what do you see in me that I'm really good at? And then in that, what part of that includes skills that would be in organizing?
Yeah.
Like, it's just fun to have someone walk through that with you, because when you're just looking at it yourself, depending on what kind of mood you're in, you're like, I don't see anything. But really, there are things there. You just have to go on a little treasure hunt and find them and take the time to think back through that. But then realizing, okay, in that, what ways and how was I thinking about it that made me create that result?
Hmm.
And from that, you can get all sorts of different ideas for thoughts that you could then turn and apply to organizing. And maybe you manipulate them a little bit to switch out a word, or, the way you're thinking about it to make it work for organizing, to create the feeling and the actions that would create an organized home.
Yeah. And sometimes I was just thinking about like a puzzle or being able to do, I don't do puzzles very often, but yet there's a lot of things that I do that are kind of like figuring out puzzle pieces. So if you are in a kitchen and trying to help a client with a kitchen, and there's very interestingly shaped drawers and corner cabinets where you can't reach certain things, and you're trying to make a functional kitchen for this person, it
Right.
works a little bit like a puzzle, like
Mhm.
figuring out, even if you declutter and you got the stuff that's the essentials. But also another aspect of my business is I write custom poetry for people. And
Oh,
I know, there's a little fact about me. So I've been writing poetry since I was about 8 years old, but I write for anniversaries and birthdays and stuff. And people give me information about their loved one, and I kind of piece it together like a puzzle to actually write a poem. So even though I don't actually do puzzles, like sit down and do them, I use this puzzle kind of solving, mentality when it comes to my work. And I feel like that's something, you could also say
that
like
you
the
can
problem
hone.
solving or
Yes.
like being able to play Tetris or like, do puzzles and everything. So I love just kind of looking for evidence holistically in your life
Mhm.
instead of just kind of having these blinders on that say like, oh, well, look at my home. I'm obviously not an organized person, and not kind of pulling from the totality of your experience.
Exactly. Yes.
Well,
And often might take someone to help you see that and walk you through exercises like that to help you.
yeah, the third party aspect is so important. I was teaching a decluttering class for moms yesterday, and I'm like, even if you don't hire me, if you have a neutral party, like a friend come over and you're saying like, "Do I need this?" and they're like, it's just helpful to have someone
It
like
is.
outside of your own head doing it. I want to jump into this other kind of mindset shift that I think has been really helpful for you and your clients, which is like this alter ego concept and being
Yes.
really able to kind of put that on if you know, like, okay, I have a little bit of time. I really want to tackle this space and just being able to kind of shift into that other identity. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I like to use the alter ego idea that you are stepping into it like an actor. I always think of who was it? Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man, because I think that's the most clear. Like he's totally acting like someone else
Yeah.
and he stays in that character. Like it's just such a neat thing. And I even picture him like stepping over the line into that character. And that's what we can do for being an organized person. We can step into the character of someone who would and ask ourselves, what does that person, and even give them a name. What does that person do and how do they think and how do they act? And the more you practice that, you then it becomes natural. Even if you, I don't know how you think about it. Like you don't necessarily become her,
hmm
but you become her so naturally. You're stepping into that and practicing it that it just becomes naturally part of you.
Yeah. I love that. And then also, yeah, like you said, like an actor. And I've heard sometimes when an actor is preparing for a role or they're filming, they'll just stay in that character even at home, like
Yes.
outside. So I don't know if Dustin Hoffman was even married, but I'm sure his family was a little bit like, okay, this is a bit much. But it is
Yeah.
helpful because you do feel like, okay, and sometimes clients will tell me when I'm not with them or podcast listeners,
Hmm.
they'll have me in their ear,
Yeah.
right? They'll be like, what would Emily say? Or what would Tracy say? But in this case, you can kind of make up your own persona and
Right.
like you're actually like, okay, what would she say? What would she do? And you're just kind of like trying it on. It might feel a little uncomfortable. It might feel a little like, this isn't me, but you can, I do this sometimes when strength training. Like maybe I don't want to really lift weights that day, right? I don't necessarily do a persona, but I'm telling myself I'm already strong and I'm getting stronger rather than like, I'm so tired. I don't want to do this. I'm strong, but I'm getting stronger. So maybe it's like, I'm organized, I'm becoming even more organized, or I'm proving to myself. And I just
Yeah.
love that alter ego concept because it just makes it kind of fun. Like it's a fun little
Hmm.
shift that makes it more enjoyable when sometimes we see decluttering as like this overwhelming chore that we have to tackle.
Right. There's a good example I think of when we talk about this that's a little bit different maybe than what someone's thought of, but it's not even that this client wanted to become organized. Yes, she was organizing and decluttering her entire apartment, but what she wanted was to have her apartment always clean so that when someone came over, they could come over, they could drop by, and she wouldn't panic and she wouldn't feel like she's unable to have someone in her house. And as we explored, okay, what does someone who always has a clean apartment, what do they do? How do they think? What kinds of things do they do? As simple as like when you're cleaning up dinner dishes, what do? They just wipe down the counter. That's just what they do every time they clean up dinner dishes. If they see a crumb on the floor, they just sweep it up. They don't have to like be really systematic about like sweeping on Mondays. No, if they see a crumb, they just sweep it up. They just put their things away after they get ready. And just this morning, I emailed her and I was like, here's another one. Someone that is always ready to have company over to their house actually invites company to their house. They actually plan when someone's going to come over. And I go, have you done that? We didn't even talk about that initially. But the more you become someone or think through and be in that person, the more you think about, oh, I hadn't even thought about this. Oh, they have homes for everything in their house. Oh, they declutter regularly. Like, and then it just becomes you and you have so much fun thinking about it and acting that part out.
Yeah. And I think that you just reminded me that if we're kind of using that, like, what would an organized person do? It's good also for seeing what our programming is from like growing up and like that kind of stuff. Like, For me, my mom, it was the house was always meticulously clean, right? So my idea of what the cleanliness standard was for my home was based upon my mom. And then I realized very early in motherhood that that was not sustainable for me. So it
Yeah.
was like instead of feeling shame about like, well, a good mom has a perfectly clean house or like whatever that
Yes.
is, then it's kind of some of the unlearning of like, what do I actually think a clean house is? And for a clean house, it's like this having what I call a floor and a ceiling. You kind of have like the top level of what would be nice, and you have that baseline of like what you're willing to accept.
Yeah.
And just being able to have that grace and flexibility in different seasons to have both. But like you said, if her goal was to be able to have company over, it doesn't necessarily mean that company ready means everything is pristine, perfect all the time. So it's
Mhm.
understanding we don't need to have these unrealistic expectations for ourselves, but we can actually ask ourselves, like, what does that mean to me? Rather than like, what are the messages through, my family of origin and culture and everything and what they're
Yeah.
saying about it.
That's so good. And in that, I started thinking, okay, I think of myself as someone who, let's say, always has a clean house. But in that, I don't care if someone comes over and I have dishes on the counter. Like it wouldn't bother me because I can just put those away, or I can just clean that up, or I don't care if I have pillows and blankets spread out. It just shows that we were like sitting on the couch last night. And so it's interesting to think through what does that actually mean because that person doesn't necessarily care
Yeah.
because they think of themselves as having a clean house. I don't know. It's fun to think through, but I love the idea of evaluating what exactly is in that person that you are being stepping into the alter ego of.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Are there any other like mindset shifts or exercises you take? I know you have a lot because you're, a life coach, but any you can think of in this vein that might be helpful for someone as they are feeling really overwhelmed or like defeated by a decluttering or organizing project that they have, to really kind of get that mindset right before they start?
Well, I like to keep everything simple, and you already know, I already teach the 5 steps to getting organized, the space again. So when you feel overwhelmed, that's your signal to go to the organizing steps. And then you sort it out. So with your thoughts and all the overwhelm, it's not just sorting tasks, but it's actually sorting and cleaning out your mind. So write down all the thoughts, then you're going to go back through and purge. And all the thoughts that you have about how you have too much and there's so much to do and you can't handle it and whatever, that's never going to get done and it won't make a difference. You can assign those a home. If you want to keep them, you can assign them a home to 3 o'clock on Thursday. You're going to just dwell in all of those thoughts. And then the rest of the time, you're going to choose a thought and assign it a home to right now. And so you follow the exact same steps when you're feeling like that and be encouraged. This is a thing like learning to play the piano. You just practice a little bit at a time, and that's perfect for where you're at. And you just keep going from there.
I love the assigning thoughts to a certain time, although I wish that, like, so my youngest gets nosebleeds a lot, and we are in the getting colder season, right? And
Yeah.
so we had a pretty bad nosebleed last night, and we were helping him and changing sheets and all the things. And then it's just so hard to get back to sleep. So as much as I try to not have the thoughts, like, excuse me, thought, I'd like to schedule
Yes.
you for 3 p.m. and not 3 a.m. Just being able to do that. I mean, I do that with like to-dos. One thing I learned from Chelsea Joe from, Systemize Your Life is having like a to-do block where, once or twice a week, instead of like, oh, I got to make the appointment and I got to do the thing, you're kind of like bulk, putting those together and batching those. So, oh, well, I already know that at 2 o'clock on Fridays, I'm doing my to-dos. So I don't have to have them around in my head all the time. So I
Yes.
love the assigning thoughts part because
Yeah.
God knows we have enough thoughts going on in our head all the time, but being able to kind of direct them in a more, not positive, but productive way, I
Yeah.
think is helpful. So, oh, this is so fun. I love chatting with you so much. And I would love it if you could tell us where we can connect with you and anything else that you want to share.
Yes, my website is simply squaredaway.com. So you can find everything on that. And my podcast is The Organized Coach. But I have a special 15-minute declutter solution that you can download at simplysquaredaway.com/declutter. And it has been so fun seeing people accomplish things and get started when they were stuck for so long. And the ladies in my Organized Life Academy are sending in pictures all the time. Here's what I did before, here's the after picture. And so it's just been so encouraging and fun to see people make a difference using that.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to take a look at that. And then also, I will link that in the show notes. We're all about the slow, steady, and small increments of time around here. So that sounds so fun. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Tracy. It was so great chatting with you and connecting with you.
Thanks, Emily, so much for having me.
Hey Mama, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, could you please share this episode with another mom who is feeling overwhelmed? Also, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a 5-star written review wherever you listen to your podcast. Finally, if you would like more support, come on over to our free Facebook group, tinyurl.com/moms overcoming overwhelm. Can't wait to connect with you soon.